Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Somewhat Scholarly. My name is Alan Hibbard, and today I am joined by a very special guest, the founder and CEO of Quantum Economics, Mr. Maddie Greenspan. Maddie, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So quantum economics, that sounds pretty fancy, sounds pretty sophisticated. What is quantum economics?
Well, Quantum Economics is a firm that I started after leaving eToro in November 2019. We do a whole bunch of stuff financially related, including advisory, research and analysis, and money management.
Fantastic. So that's pretty recent then. 2019, you said only about 2 years.
Yeah, a year and a half, it seems, something like that.
Wow, seems like you're growing pretty quickly because I've seen your research and your commentary appear in some pretty major publications like Bloomberg, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, that kind of thing. So it's pretty impressive for such a short period of time.
Yeah, well, that stuff I've actually been doing for quite a while. So even while I was at eToro, my position was the Senior Market Analyst. So I was doing regular interviews and commentary for mainstream media and top tier financial news even back then. It's like the one good thing that I had when I left, it was that I had actually built already a reputation, and that really was invaluable in giving me a head start. But obviously, since then, it's just been leaving eToro was very scary, but I think it's been an amazing journey, and probably the best career decision that I've taken in my entire life.
Wow, amazing. And now I got to ask, why was it scary? Why was it scary to leave eToro?
Because it's a great place, and I was making a good salary, and I really enjoyed my work and enjoyed the people that I was working with. I've been on a salary model for my entire life, and I just had my third child, so you got to pay the rent, make sure you can do that. So that was the scary part, but it was very quick until I realized that there wasn't going to be any issue whatsoever. Last November, sorry, not last November. Yeah, just now, September. I made more money from eToro as one single client than I ever made working for them on a salary model. So, in retrospect, was a good move.
Okay. Yeah, I guess so. That's awesome. There's a good lesson there because I went through something similar, and I have some friends doing the same thing who are, used to the salary model and who are thinking about, branching out into something that they're maybe more passionate about or just at least interested in. They want to experiment with, and it's a whole new ball game. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I guess if you can get past the fear, good things will happen. So that's an awesome success story. Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Interesting. Well, we got to talk Bitcoin. We got to talk Ethereum. We got to talk crypto in general. So why don't you start with like a big sort of high level view of how you're seeing the crypto space? We can talk about your pinned tweet. You've got a pinned tweet. Ethereum is very quickly becoming the preferred currency of the World Wide Web. So yeah, I definitely like that. So yeah, so can you maybe explain more about how you're seeing Ethereum and why you would tweet something like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of replies on that one too, with people who obviously disagree, but the retweets and the likes far outnumber the replies. So I figure that we're on the right track here. It seems that almost all of the innovation that's happening in the crypto market right now, I mean, the innovation itself, not the hype or anything like that, is being built on top of the Ethereum network. And when you see just about any headline that's crypto related, if it's not talking about Bitcoin and its use case as a digitally scarce asset, which is amazing, and I love Bitcoin and everything like that, but when people are doing transactions on the internet, on the worldwide, on the WWW 3.0, where we're talking about the Internet of Value, it's all being built on top of Ethereum, to the tune of 90%. And then all of the replies are coming in and saying, "Oh my gosh, but it's so expensive, and the gas fees, and it's slow." And well, yes, because people are using it. I mean, the fees are a factor of the free market, paying for the computer space of the people who are securing those transactions and securing the network. So the fees are really a factor, I believe, of the fact that it's popular and being used. You can put through a transaction on other blockchains, which is going to be much cheaper and much faster because there's nobody else using them. And I believe that even Binance chain, which right now is running like a dream. I believe that if they were seeing the same type of traffic that Ethereum was, the fees would also go through the roof and the transaction times would go down. So yeah, and there is a lot of work to be done as far as scaling and everything like that. But if you get into DeFi or you get into any kind of niche market or NFTs or anything within the crypto market, you're going to be interacting with Ethereum. And I think that most of these replies that are naysaying, I think it's just a lot of people talking their own bags. Quite honestly, they're just like, yeah, but my coin is better because I'm holding it. No.
Yeah, it's amazing how much of that there is. It's a really fascinating phenomenon, I guess, from my perspective, to see all these like little tribes pop up in the crypto community, and some of them even within the same coins. For example, within Bitcoin, which is the coin I'm most close to, I see all these different little like sub tribes within Bitcoin, arguing Bitcoin is this, but it's not this, and it could never be that, and it is just so funny to see all that. And it's almost like everybody is a tiny bit right and mostly wrong. It's like almost everybody, it's kind of funny. Like I sometimes put myself in the same camp. It's like I'm probably wrong on so many things. It's just I don't know yet. Like I don't know I'm wrong yet until the future plays out, I guess. So yeah, one thing that really captivates me is how strong the network effects are with something like Bitcoin and something like Ethereum. But I haven't studied Ethereum too much, and I haven't looked at too much of the innovation that's happening. I'm not that close to a lot of the debates anymore. I used to be back in 2017, and it just got to be too much to keep up with everything. And I just kind of slowly crept away from it. But it seems to me, and you tell me if you agree or disagree, but it seems to me like for the use case of money, like Bitcoin, just a digital store of value, it seems like the network effects are just enormous and maybe the biggest factor in terms of predicting which coin will win for that use case. Whereas for other use cases, smart contracts, privacy, blah, 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 it seems to me like network effects are important, but not the number one factor. Like there are other things. So I don't know. Maybe I don't want to commit to that opinion too strongly, but I guess my question for you is, how important do you think network effects are in terms of determining or guessing or forecasting who the number one winner will be, the number one coin, versus other factors?
Right. And well, on that note, full disclosure, I'm advising a company called Lunar Crush, which I don't know if you're familiar with. What they do is basically they call it social listening for cryptos. So they basically analyze all of the data across all of social media and the news and the World Wide Web in general for all of the individual coins. And this is really about measuring that network effect, right? And understanding. And they have some really, so I do recommend to check out their website at lunarcrush.com. You can see they've done an excellent job visually laying out that visualized data in a way that's really easy to digest. And I do believe that this is a very large factor of how price is going to be determined within the crypto world, because we don't have things like earnings per share or other kind of metrics that stocks or bonds might be evaluated against. This is an entirely new world. And because blockchains essentially are networks, we're going to want to be able to quantify those networks and see exactly how big, how fast are they growing or shrinking, and that's going to be able to help us to determine the value at the moment. I don't know that it's going to be able to tell us the future, that's maybe more to your question. I do believe that Ethereum will continue to be the dominant player within the smart contract space. I don't think that Bitcoin has any competitors anymore. In 2017, it did for sure have people who were claiming a stake. By now, they've fallen by the wayside. And I don't think that Ethereum, I mean, I think that people talk about Ethereum having competitors, but it doesn't really have any competitors on the ground. But you might be right. I mean, there might be a lot of use case specific stuff. So for example, if a company wants to, have a token that interacts with their network and that it's traded on a few exchanges, and, they don't necessarily need to build it on Ethereum because it's the biggest, right? They can choose a plethora of other cryptos depending on their use case and depending on depending on how they like to build, right? Which programming language or whatever has the best features for what they're trying to do. And that's not always going to be Ethereum. But as far as security is concerned, right? And if security is of the essence, we're talking about large money applications, right? Where you're talking about issuing national bonds, which I believe there are some countries already doing on Ethereum, right? Those are the type of things that you're going to want to use the bigger network because it's just safer.
Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely, yeah. There's a proportional relationship between the size of the network and the security and so forth. So yeah, actually, there was so many things you mentioned there, little tangents we could go off on. But let me ask you about ETH 2.0 and the whole transition from proof of work to proof of stake. Where are we on that? I probably could have just Googled it, but I don't spend too much time reading up on ETH news. But where are we in the transition there? And is it going to go smoothly? Are there going to be road bumps, or what do you think is going to happen?
So this is a question that I asked Vitalik in 2017. And he mentioned to me that he said the next upgrade, I think it was like Constantinople at the time, he says coming in a few months. And it took like a year. I don't know. It'll take as long as it takes. In the meantime, we'll pay higher gas fees if you want to use a smart contract application. I mean, it's a bit of a barrier to entry, especially for people who want to, play around with $10. You can't because it's going to cost you 50 to just to make a transaction. But for people who are playing in the thousands or hundreds of thousands, I mean, it really doesn't phase them whatsoever. When we're talking about a Christie's auction that sells for 69 million, who cares that the gas fee was $150? Nobody does. It really isn't a factor over there. But yeah, I mean, that's just how it goes, right? I mean, we're going to continue. It's going to continue to be built, and there will be also layer 2 solutions, right? Where similar to the way the Lightning Network works in Bitcoin, and that things will happen off chain, and then they'll be reconciled to back to the main chain. That's just how networks scale. So I do believe that eventually we'll have an Ethereum 2.0. I can say that, but I don't think that that's necessarily going to be very good for the price.
Interesting. Why not?
Well, because the fees will be lower, right? The network retains less of the value, right? When the fees are higher, there's a higher retention of value by the network, right? The network actually holds that value and becomes saturated by it. When the fees are lower, There's less demand on the token because less people have to buy it in order to pay the fees, right? And overall tokenomics seem to indicate, and obviously this is a very new field, that a higher fee is conducive to a higher price in the coin.
It definitely makes sense. And Bitcoin and Ethereum both kind of suffer in many people's minds from high transaction fees. Yet they also benefit from high transaction fees because they're attracting and retaining the value to the network. So it's a bit of a paradox almost, because like since I've been in crypto, I don't know, 5 years or whatever it's been, people have been saying that like fees are too high on X coin, therefore it won't work. And it's almost the opposite, where the highest fees are the coins that are most successful. So it's just kind of funny, I guess.
And you'll never know which is causing which, right? I mean, is it because this is happening because of that, or that's happening because of this? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a beautiful feedback loop, and we see, yeah, exactly, like paying the miners to secure the network, and that drives up the price, and so forth. And if one of them drops too low, causes the other to drop, and so forth. So yeah, nice. So I was going to ask you, there were a couple comments that I saw about some of your comments actually, and one of them was the idea of Bitcoin as a safe haven. And I think you were quoted in some article about Bitcoin being a safe haven, and it was from a year ago, I think like February or March 2020, around the time that I think like Corona was coming into the public eye, and just like every financial asset went down for like some large percentage very quickly. And stocks went down, precious metals went down, crypto went down, everything went down. And a lot of people were saying, aha, Bitcoin can't be a safe haven because it just went down. And I think you said something like, there's different types of safe havens. It's not necessarily going to protect against an earnings drop that like a stock company would have. So could you, I guess, just talk a little bit about this safe haven narrative? Do you see Bitcoin as a safe haven? Is it a certain type of safe haven? Is it the same safe haven as gold, or how do you see all that?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and I do kind of go back and forth myself because the answer is really subjective. I mean, safe from what exactly? This is the main question, right? So if you live in a country that's experiencing massive hyperinflation, for example, right? No need to name any at the moment, but Bitcoin is a safe haven, right? Your currency is almost guaranteed to lose its value. You're going to want to hold on to Bitcoin, even if Bitcoin might, drop in value during the time that you're holding it. If you would have bought Bitcoin, right, at the top of the 2017 bubble, using Venezuelan bolivars, right? And you have sold it at the bottom of the crypto winter in 2018 in Venezuelan bolivars, you'd still be way up. Like honestly, the bolivar had saw something like 1,000,000% inflation that year. So it really depends on what your situation is. If you're in one of those countries, then yes, Bitcoin is absolutely a safe haven. Is Bitcoin a safe haven against the coronavirus? I don't know. I don't really think so. Possibly against inflation threats, possibly. But on the other hand, I mean, it went from $10,000 to $60,000 inside of a few months on the narrative that it's an inflation hedge. So, I mean, inflation, I mean, we usually talk about, and the Fed is predicting inflation of 2 to 3%, 4% if we get into really bad situation. And Bitcoin is up, what, 500%? It gets 600%. Come on. That's not an inflation hedge. That is a risk asset. That is classic risk asset. And the way that we can see that is look at what the stock market did in that time frame as well, which is basically it went through the roof because stocks are also an inflation hedge, right? Stocks are, if you're holding a piece of a company, it's certainly better than holding the currency itself, because the currency goes down, the price of the shares go up in relation to that. So I would say that in many cases and throughout Bitcoin's history, because it's so new, if we look at it, the correlations and in relation to other assets, from a fund manager's perspective, right, from a perspective of somebody who's managing billions of dollars, Bitcoin is a risk asset. And you can't say anything else, because it has in the past quite frequently dropped 60, 70, 80% in value in a short time frame. And that puts it very squarely from a fund manager's point of view, into a high risk asset, extremely high risk, the kind that you don't want to allocate more than 3-5% of your entire portfolio in. If you do more than that and you're managing that kind of money, you're just insane. And I'm sorry, Mr. Saylor, and anybody else who might be listening. So between the Venezuelan and Larry Fink, there is everybody else on the planet, right? And so I would not be able to answer that question specifically for every single individual. That's something that we all have to kind of determine for ourselves.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that so many of these definitions and so forth are subjective, and that you got to decide if something is a safe haven for you, or if it's risky for you, or if it's a store of value for you, or what it is for you. And a lot of people are sort of looking for this this official classification, and then they just don't have to think about it. It's like, okay, if a lot of people turn to the government, actually, like, okay, if the government says it's blank, then it is great, and I don't have to think about it anymore. It's just that.
What box can I put this in for storage?
Exactly. There's so much of that going around, and the more I try to put things in boxes, whether it's cryptos or whatever, the more I realize that it's all completely arbitrary. Like, it's all arbitrary, and like all the boxes are illusions. So as nice as it would be if we could compartmentalize life into all these boxes, the reality is it's messy. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, I did have another question about another comment of yours. You mentioned that basically the world is changing, which I think is no surprise. But you drew a distinction between the world that Warren Buffett sort of grew up in and made his money in. Obviously, Warren Buffett is the most famous and probably most successful stock investor of all time, and the world we're living in now, which is very different. And you mentioned that probably whoever comes next, so to speak, whoever follows in his footsteps will do so in a very different environment and probably through a different path. So yeah, so what did you mean by that, and how is the world different, and what do you think the most successful investors are going to be doing moving forward?
Yeah, so I do admire Warren Buffett in a lot of ways, but I mean, let's be real, he's a dinosaur. I don't by far believe that he would be considered the best investor of all time. He was certainly the front runner of his generation, but there have been many investors before and even after him who I believe have a lot more clout and success even on paper. Warren Buffett missed the boat on a lot of things. He was late to many different aspects of technology, which I think is what ended up, kind of kicking him in the butt in the end and moving him out of that top spot prestigiously, because most of the major market gains that we've seen over the last decade or two have been technology based. And so I believe that in this generation, we can see it very clearly, you know, the front runners like Elon Musk and Kathy Woods from ARK Invest, and Chamith Palihapitiya. I mean, these are people who are, you know, they live on the internet, and they live, you know, they're very their feet are very firmly rooted in the cloud. So thinking about who is going to come after Buffett, I mean, those are three names that I believe already have kind of overtaken that status. As well, we're going to have to think about the way that inflation is going to play out, and it's really going to, a lot of things are going to depend on that, on how the economy deals with this. And from what we can see, a lot more depends on their ability to be in touch with the zeitgeist and the way that the internet is flowing that day. Donald Trump rose to power on his ability to understand the news cycle. That was really his kind of, that really is his gift, where he's able to dominate the news cycle. Elon Musk is the god of memes, right? And all of his wealth, all of it comes from that, right? I mean, he didn't make money from building cars. I mean, that's the ruse, right? Like, Tesla is not valued as a car company; it's valued as a meme company. So the ability to be in touch with what's happening on the interwebs at any given moment, and to be able to use that for personal gain, I think that's kind of what we're looking for in the next Buffetts, or the Buffetts of the next generation.
Interesting. And yeah, when I look at investing, at least for myself personally, I look at it as so many different trade-offs, like so many different relative valuations. So it's not so much like, do I like Bitcoin today? Yes or no. It's do I like Bitcoin more than every other option available to me today? Yes or no. Or is there something else I like more? So it's really relative. And the whole cryptocurrency space kind of came out of nowhere, you might say. Like it itself, like Bitcoin itself, was a black swan in many ways. And so now we have the whole cryptocurrency space that's just sucking all this capital from what would have been in other asset classes. Like if cryptos didn't exist right now, the stock market would probably be $1 trillion higher. So that makes me think. Makes me think like maybe in the future there will be some new asset class, internet based, with I can't even imagine what it would be, but the next Buffett, so to speak, might be in tune with that and ready to pounce on a completely new business model, a completely new asset class, that type of thing. That's just my opinion.
And I tend to agree. Yes.
Nice. Yeah, so it'll be an interesting world to experience, I guess, as we go. And that actually brings up another point, which is China and some geopolitics. And China, I forget the year, but they banned ICOs. I think maybe in 2017, or certainly when it was a big boom. And I can't even keep track of what China has banned versus what it allows. I mean, like, is it even legal to own Bitcoin in China these days? I don't know. But they can't have like cryptocurrency exchanges. I don't think they can have ICOs, and yet the largest mining pools are in China. So I can't keep up with what they're doing. I don't even know how much the citizens follow the rules versus break them. So what is
citizens don't know the rules? This is the main issue. And I read over the weekend an article in the New Yorker about a lady who was born in the province of Xinjiang, very ethnic, and there is a lot of I don't know if you've ever heard about the genocide that's happening there, but she basically experienced it firsthand. She left China to go to Vancouver, and she was a student and working in Vancouver, and then she went back to Xinjiang to because her father died, and she went to take care of his affairs, and she basically got stuck there, and she got put into one of the re-education centers. Just a terrible story. It's like basically Holocaust 2.0. And and one of the experiences that she mentioned, there was a lady sharing a bed with her in her cell, or a young girl who was from the region, and she was put in there because she downloaded a app called Zayap or something like that for music, and it was on some kind of list of banned apps, but nobody had access to that list except for the government. So she just lived in her life regular, and then all of a sudden the government comes and rounds you up and said you downloaded an illegal app, and then try and explain to them that you didn't know it was illegal. They don't care. So I think that there's probably a lot of that kind of, and obviously in Xinjiang this is kind of an extreme situation. But I think that that's kind of reflected in the rest of China as well, where you don't really know where the line is till you've crossed it and the government's knocking on your door. So it's not surprising to me in that light that they might, say that Bitcoin is banned, but still allow mining at the same time. It really depends, who's in charge of that at that very moment and what they're feeling like.
Yeah, so that it's unbelievable to me that that those types of things are going on in the world in terms of the genocide and uh, just governments destroying their own people, basically. And then, I mean, you learn about it in history books, and you think like, "Wow, we've come such a long way from those terrible times." And then you, I mean, if you're paying attention to the world around you, you realize it's still going on, and there's not enough people speaking out against it, I guess, is what there should be. So I don't know. I don't know. What do you do? That's sort of like a question as like an individual. It's like, what do you do when you see an injustice? It's kind of like a philosopher's question. But yeah, what do you what do you do?
You speak. That's what I do. I mean, I tweet about it. That's where my platform is. So that's where I'll talk about it, honestly, or I'll write about it in my newsletter, so that people who are following me can know about it. I mean, on a certain level, you might want to kind of boycott China, but you can't, because everything is made in China. I mean, so really, what can you do? You can you can cry out loud enough that the politicians who are in charge of managing those relationships will be motivated to do something. You can, if you're in the United States, you can write to your congressman. I mean, that's something that people actually do. They write to their congressman, let them know what they're, and that's how the Congress people know how to act, because it's their interest to make sure that their constituents are happy so that they get reelected. So that's really, I suppose, as an individual, the best that you can do.
Are you living in the United States? Are you a U.S. citizen, or are you abroad?
I'm a dual citizen, currently in Israel.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a U.S. citizen, and yeah, on the heels of the 2020 election and the aftermath, and the, let's say, the media coverage of all those things, which is basically how we know anything, or how we're confused about anything. Let's put it that way. It's via the media. It really makes me feel like my voice as a citizen is virtually zero. like there's like hardly
It
anything.
depends in what state you live, Alan. It really depends, right? As a Californian, I have no vote, right? Even if I want to vote Republican, my vote goes to the Democrats. It's just the way the system is set up.
Yeah, I last year I moved from New York. I lived in basically Buffalo, New York, pretty much my whole life. So I moved from New York to Florida. So I'm in Florida now, and
So now you have a say.
now I have to say, I guess, yeah. But still, it doesn't really make me feel that good. Like, I mean, a little bit, it makes me feel better that I'm, at least taking care of myself. But like when I know there's, 300 million people and it seems like they have no voice, in large part, it's like, there's bigger problems than just me.
Yeah, and then what are they giving you? The choice of the lesser evil. They give you, would you like the clown on the left or the clown on the right? And they're both the same. They're the same fucking thing at the end of the day. I vote firmly libertarian almost every time, because I'm quite sick of this kind of two-party, two-faced system.
Yeah, I totally hear you. I mean, my views are absolutely libertarian. Yeah, and I had hope for Trump for his first term, and then on all the issues that mattered in my mind, like the size of the government and social programs and money printing and national debt, like these types of things, nothing changed. I mean, it all just went on the same trajectory, which means like basically Trump outspent Obama. Right. And Biden is certainly on pace to outspend Trump. And it's like this has been going on the last, like, I don't know, 6 presidents or something like that, regardless of what party they're from.
Forever.
And
There hasn't been there. I don't think that there has been an administration in the history of the United States that didn't outspend their predecessor. Could be wrong on that, but that's my understanding of the situation.
yeah, you could be right. Or if it was like in the 1810 or something, like it was by like $5. It's by like,
Right, right.
yeah, it's like a rounding error. So who knows? I mean, but this is not a sustainable
Five
path.
dollars was a lot of money back then.
It's true. Quarter ounce of gold. Yeah, it'd be like, $400 today, something like that. Yeah. So where do you see this going? Because the path we're on in terms of, just the fiat system all over the world, not just the United States, but every major country has a fiat regime. Any government just prints money whenever they want to spend it, and they spend it on social programs, and they use that to try to get reelected, and they try to outbid the other political party, no matter what country you're in. And it's, I mean, there is no free lunch. There are no free handouts, but it seems like there are a lot of voters who think that there are free handouts. And it's a very compelling message to a lot of people. But this whole system can't go on forever. So where do you think we're going, and how long do you think it'll take?
Yeah, that is a question. I mean, think about it like this, right? Joe Biden has already released a stimulus package of 1.9 trillion. I mean, the ink was still wet when he started planning his next stimulus package of 2.5 trillion. Um, he will be dead and gone by the time that money needs to be paid back. He don't fucking care. He has no horse in this race. He doesn't really need to ever worry about how that money is going to be paid back. And that happens all over the world, right? And when any politician, any good politician, knows that people like it when you spend money. It's a no-brainer, right? They're getting something for nothing, and the long-term consequence, they're going to be gone by the time that the long-term consequences come around. And I think that this is an inherent flaw in the way that democracy works in general. I mean, I don't remember who it was that said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for everything else. It's quite true. I don't, maybe these new kind of decentralized networks will kind of help us solve a lot of these issues, but I don't think that they'll go away overnight. I don't disillusion myself to that level. But yeah, I mean, this is the only, like, the amount of debt that the U.S. government has. I mean, they'll never be able to repay it. Their only hope is to devalue the debt, and that's exactly what they're doing at the moment. How long can that go on before it completely implodes? Well, seemingly a very long time. I mean, people have been having this type of same conversation that me and you are having right now since the 1970s, when there actually was very high levels of inflation in the United States. And, people pulled out of that, and the world pulled out of that, and it will pull out of this too. And in the meantime, and again, the vast good that comes out of this is the innovation and the capital allocation, right? Think about it. A microcosm of that is the ICO bubble of 2017, where there were so many scams and rug pulls, but the sheer amount of capital that poured into the market forced the innovation to happen. And that's what's happening right now in the economy in the United States at large, is that amount of money that's being poured into the market is actually spurring that kind of innovation and spurring that kind of inherent good in a way that, okay, fine, we'll ditch the dollar and in a decade, or we'll change things behind the scenes in the way that it operates in order to stabilize markets or prices when it gets to that emergency level situation, or maybe a little bit after it gets to it. But humanity will live on, and some people will suffer, and some people will profit from it. This is the way of the world.
Yeah, true. Yeah, for a long time, I was kind of like focused on how do I save everyone? Like, how do I save everyone from this catastrophe? And then I realized you just can't. Like there's going to be winners and losers, and you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that's a lesson I learned in education, because I've been a teacher and tutor for different subjects over the years. And it's like, if you have a student, it doesn't matter how smart they are, if they're not interested in learning whatever the lesson is of the day, they're just not going to learn it. And some people don't want to learn about money, they don't want to learn about finance, they don't want to learn about central bank money printing or whatever it is. You can't force them. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that nowadays more people than ever are realizing that they have to. And it's kind of one of the things. It's on the About Us page of quantumeconomics.io. I wrote it even way before coronavirus, but I mean, every man, woman, and child has an obligation to learn as much as they can about finances and personal finance and investing, because the money in your bank is very quickly losing its value. And if you have any kind of excess, you definitely don't want it to be sitting in an asset like a fiat currency. And I think that, just by the level of conversations that I have outside of work and outside of the internet, of people that come at me, old friends, or friends of friends, neighbors. You can already see the education that's happening in mass across the world, and people are realizing that they kind of need to be participating in the financial markets. And those who have been involved in financial markets, over the last few years, I would say, certainly are much better off for it. In some cases, astronomically so. And you just keep hearing stories. Oh, that guy's a millionaire now. That guy's a millionaire. That guy's a millionaire. And that's not something that I saw in 2017. I mean, that's now. That's like where you have I know one of the guys on my team called it a shitcoin millionaire, right? Where you have coins that, like they're doing nothing, they're worth nothing, and all of a sudden they're worth something. And you had, your portion of that, right? You had only, it was silly. It was only $3,000 or something like this, right? And all of a sudden it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that kind of dynamic is, it's fascinating, and it's quite new. And certainly it does come with a very heavy cost. Right, which is the people that are on the other side of that scale who didn't participate, and then you think, okay, so what's the value of $1 million, right? And certainly it's going to be better than paycheck to paycheck, right? But also, it doesn't have the same meaning as it did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I hope that's kind of clear what I'm getting at.
Yeah, big time. Like it's definitely becoming easier and easier to be a millionaire simply because there's more dollars out there like that are up for grabs, and the dollars are growing way faster than the population. So like average dollars per person out there is just rising astronomically. So it's really a question of sort of almost like getting your fair share, although it's not fair, like that's not probably the best word to use, but your proportional share maybe. And there's more and more ways to do it, like every day. It's unbelievable the opportunities out there, yeah, with the altcoins or anything else. But yeah, I totally resonate with your story of a bunch of people getting into the financial space, even if they aren't financial people, just inquiring about it. It's happening to me, friends and family everywhere. They know I'm a financial guy. They just ask me like, how do I get started with Bitcoin, or how do I buy stocks? And I just had my 18-year-old cousin just reached out to me and asked me those same questions. I'm like, awesome. I'm so proud of you for asking the question and getting started. And even for me personally, that's sort of how I got into finances. I was 18 and I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I realized, wow, I don't know anything about money, but I better figure it out because no matter what I do for a living, I'm going to have to understand what money is and how to invest it. So sure enough, I switched my major to finance and got a degree in finance, and I've been basically studying money ever since. So next month it'll be like my 15-year anniversary of just being in finance. It's like
Congrats.
it's crazy.
Congrats. That's
Oh,
awesome.
oh, thanks. Well, yeah, I feel a little bit like Elon Musk, like he says, or I feel like one of the people he talks about. He says, we have too many people going into finance these days, and they should be going into engineering. They should be trying to build stuff and innovate and create. And I think he's absolutely right. And that was me. Like I went to college for engineering, and then, like I said, read that book, switched to business, and thought like, all right, let me just learn money real quick, and then I'll go back to I'll go back to the sciencey stuff. And so I've been away from it for 15 years. It's too much time. Too much time.
Maybe by the time you're 50, man.
Yeah. So I'll definitely get back to it soon. But yeah, I did want to ask you because I know in your Twitter bio you have father of three, so you've got three kids. So congrats on the third one, by the way. So how do you
Thanks.
think about raising them, bringing them into this world, educating them? What's your plan for that? And what are their ages, by the way? What's the oldest?
So the youngest one is 2, 5 and 7. Uh, the 2 older are the girls, and then a boy. Um, you might hear them in the background periodically during our call or other calls that I'm on. That's because I've kind of set up shop right in the middle of my house over here. Like you can kind of say I had the option to be in a kind of closed room. Certainly would have been a lot more conducive to doing interviews like this one. But I realized because I work so much, I would never see my kids. I mean, like honestly, they would, now they feel quite free to come up to me, even if I'm on the phone or whatever. And, even if I can't talk at the moment, you still give them a hug or whatever. Um, it's been the year of lockdowns has been extremely difficult, I believe, on everybody. uh, Emotionally. My 2-year-old is he has absolutely no context for social skills. I mean, now that life is kind of getting back to normal, we've taken him out and seen family and stuff like that, and he like immediately like shy and he hides away. I'm quite certain that that'll go away quite quickly. But it's quite apparent, and then the older ones, they haven't really been steady in school for quite a while. So you got to just kind of teach them what you know and what you can. My my ideal is kind of I want to teach them kind of how to acquire skills that they want, right? And that's kind of my idea of kind of lead by example. Um, as much as I can, I'll let them, use my computer or, to play video games and stuff like that. I went out and got a set for picking locks because I thought that would be a fun thing to do with my kids. And both of the older ones, they're into it. They're like, yeah, let's do this. They'll pick up the tools and then see what they can do with it. Try to understand how does the mechanism work and stuff like that. And I think that it's not just about giving them that one specific skill, but showing them kind of the way that if you want to do something and you want to learn something, this is how you do it, right? You go on the internet, you check on YouTube, you watch videos, and you see how is it done, and then you go and acquire the tools for that job, and then you just you get better over time, and that's I suppose that's kind of what I can do as much as I can, because they grow up in a much different world than we did, right? I mean, think about as a kid how many arguments you had about what was a fact and what was a fiction and what was an opinion, right? And these days, like, you have Google. It doesn't. Most 90% of those arguments would have dissolved because you have the smartphone. You pull it out. You say, okay, what's the answer here, right? What's the freaking capital of China? It's there. There it is. What's the population? It's there. All of this kind of information is right at our fingertips. So that they're going to grow up in a world where it's not about the knowledge that you've accumulated, but about how you deploy those type of soft skills that you've acquired. And I think that's going to be a lot more important going forward.
Yeah, big time. I totally agree. And so, in that vein, when you talk about learning how to learn stuff, and you go to YouTube or whatever it is, or you ask Dad or whoever has the knowledge, I don't think you mentioned teachers or school in that answer. Well, you said the kids weren't steady in school. So I'm wondering if you have plans to either do public school, private school, homeschool, or some kind of other model, because obviously socialization is important. But maybe there's not much else at school. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you tell me what your plan is in that regard.
So in Israel, schools are pretty much back to normal, and we had a holiday now, so they were off. But yeah, I believe that it's important, and I believe that they're going to learn things there that things that I can't teach them. Hats off to my wife for trying to keep up the homeschooling and beating her head against the wall, teaching the ABCs, the alphabets, and arithmetic. That's not something that she knew how to do before, and suddenly she has to. She has no choice but to do it. So hats off to her. But yeah, I mean, obviously, school is important, especially at that age. We definitely don't have any alternative to that. College, on the other hand, I don't believe is important at all. I have no degree whatsoever. I went to college for 2 semesters. The first one I aced, and the second one I flunked. It was really like, I don't know what switched inside me, but I was just like, I don't feel like, I'm not going to do another 6 years of this. But no way. But that not having a degree hasn't negatively affected my career in any way, shape, or form. I have a license to a broker-dealer license in the European Union, and obviously have been able to build up this kind of career. And I've seen many people, unfortunately, who went to school for that amount of time and came out with the biggest thing that they came out of it with was debt. And sorry, man.
It's okay. Still paid it off.
I feel for you, man.
It's okay.
I feel for you, man. It's like, but on the other hand, I mean, I don't, so I don't know. I mean, I think that higher education and the way it's done has to be rethought. And I think that um, I think that because in grade school you can you can sit there and ponder what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And I think that for myself, when I was that age, already going into the workforce, right? That was a bigger teacher to me than than being able to than sitting in a university and continuing to ponder what do I want to do. Because at that point, I just had to do, right. I didn't have a choice. I had to, had to pay the rent, had to pay the bills. And while I was doing that, I could start thinking, okay, I like this. I don't like that. I can hop to another job to try and shape, the kind of skills that I'm acquiring on the job. And that's really how my career went. I was thinking about always, whenever I was doing something, what's my next step? What's my next move? What am I going to do after this? And how is that going to help me 4 or 5 steps down the line, right? And that was really, I think, much more, much more valuable for my time than spending 4 years on a campus and talking to professors, pondering the meaning of life and all that.
Yeah, I definitely get you. A lot of the things I'm trying to do now, I try to make sure they're exponential in terms of the growth, the personal growth or business growth or anything like that. Whereas in my younger days, I was just taking these baby little linear steps. And I think university is kind of like a linear step. It's just like, eh.
I couldn't agree more, really. I mean, it's not that much different than grade school.
Yeah, exactly. It's just way more expensive. Yeah. So with that in mind, with the idea of exponential steps, like looking forward for your own career for quantum economics and so forth, what do you envision as your path forward? What are your next growth steps?
Yeah. So, um, knock on wood. I mean, when I left eToro, I left with nothing but a severance package. It was a nice one because I'd been there for so long and I had a nice salary. Um, I'm now at the point when I could feasibly stop working and retire if I wanted to. But obviously, I don't want to. I'm having way too much fun. Right now, we've got nearly 20 people on the team, and they're of the smartest and brightest people that I could find on the internet, each one with vast knowledge, some of them with decades of experience in their specific fields. Some of them, social influencers like myself, and um, just progressing that. I mean, we've been mentioned in the news, because we do a lot of work with journalists, especially in the mainstream media, and commentary and analysis has been mentioned nearly 1,500 times since the start of the year. And I want to grow those numbers like exponentially. I believe that we can, and there's enough work to be done in that field. And that to me is kind of, we get the honor and the privilege of explaining to the explainers, right? Because the media are the people that talk to the world, because people read by way of their articles and they introduce new concepts, and we get to kind of explain to them what the best way of explaining it is. So that's a lot of fun. Doing deep dive research papers as well. I mean, we do quite a bit of those, usually for private clients who will put it out as a ghost written piece or whatever, which is completely fine with me. I still feel like I've contributed to the world. And my big hurdle and my big project, of course, is the money management aspect. My goal when I left eToro was to have $1 billion under management within 5 years. We're now a year and a half in. I have $1 million under management, which is all by way of the eToro platform. eToro themselves obviously need to do a bit of upgrading because I'm, as a US client, only have access to cryptocurrencies, which is not my ideal situation. I want to, because eToro is actually a multi-asset platform in Europe where you can trade currencies, commodities, stocks, ETFs, you name it. And that's what I did while I was, while I was with them. I had a kind of a model portfolio. So, but that's on them. I can't tell them anymore how to grow their business. Um, I can only suggest and fire tweets at Yoni every once in a while. That's the best I can do for them. In the meantime, setting up a kind of fund for qualified investors, which is, it's not the ideal way that I want to be working. Obviously, I want to be more inclusive and have, do retail customers and everything like that. But it will take a lot longer. It's simply because of the fees that are involved. And not that I can't pay those fees, I just don't want to. I have a very simple philosophy for quantum economics that in the way that it was set up is as a bootstrapped entity where every project that we take on is cash positive from day one. We haven't raised capital. We certainly could have it at many junctures. But that's, to me, this is kind of a puzzle, and that's not part of the puzzle. It's just something that I want to maintain, and I feel like it will be much easier and more fluid in the long run, to make sure that we go one step at a time. So we first have, the eToro account, which is a lot of fun, and then we go towards managing money for specific clients who I have, people coming to me on, Twitter direct message or LinkedIn quite often and go, hey, I've got, $50,000, $100,000. Can you manage it for me? And for the last year, I've been going, I want to say yes. So very soon we'll be able to do that. And then after that, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, once we got that down to a science, then we can just kind of open something up that's more scalable and more available for everyone, which is what I want to do. So in the meantime, for the people who are looking, who want to invest with us, we do have other solutions, but we'll get to there. We'll get there. I mean, that's kind of to answer your question. Certainly, still a lot of aspirations that have yet been unfulfilled.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you got so many different avenues for growth. And I know you've got a newsletter. So I'm wondering who would be the type of people that would subscribe to that? Is that for retail investors? And if so, what are the kind of range of topics that you write about in your newsletter?
So it's for everyone, really. I mean, we do have a lot of people who are reading it that are journalists, of course. People writing stories specifically about crypto or other markets. That includes top tier finance, Bloomberg, CNBC, Thomson Reuters, Wall Street Journal, Business Insider. They're all reading it, of course. And we try to maintain very good relationships with them, with those publications. A lot of people who are beginners in the market and they want to kind of get a direction. A lot of people who are veterans in the market. People who are running some of the biggest projects in crypto. So I don't want to name drop anybody at the moment, but a lot of people who are founders of so I mean, really everybody. I mean, I try to make it as wide as possible. I do it mostly for myself. I mean, it's really, I spend a lot of time on the newsletter because I want it. It's for me, every day is kind of a challenge about, what are we going to be writing about, and how do we want to what can we bring that's going to be helpful for people and new at the same time, and useful information, but also entertaining. And that's really my, uh, my goal for the newsletter when I'm writing it. And I mean, the audience is growing, so I really can't complain there.
Yeah, fantastic. Nice. And I do want to ask, because you are an analyst, and I'm a bit of an analyst myself, I guess. I would say, like, professionally, but I do analyze things. I got to ask you if there are any other sort of mainstream analysts that you think are really just getting it wrong. That really are just kind of going the wrong way. They're either misleading people, that are clinging to old narratives, or just refusing to see things. So you're already smiling. Yeah. What do you think?
I think there are, and I think that we could probably do without name dropping anybody, honestly. And we didn't do the name dropping when it was good, and certainly not going to do it when it's not, when it's negative stuff. But I think that there's a lot of people out there who even know they're wrong, but they they're getting attention, and that attention translates into monetization. So they'll continue to push a wrong narrative because it's profitable. And I think that that's really enough said on on that one, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And, like, as I think about it, I realize, there are a lot of people who fall into that category. A lot. So it is what it
Yeah.
is, and that's why. Yeah, that's why I say you can't outsource your own thinking. Like, you at the end of the day, you got to think for yourself. Like, you can outsource a lot of things. You can't outsource your own
You can
thinking.
try.
you
Yeah,
can
people
try.
do.
You can try.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, at the end of the day, it falls on your shoulders, I guess. So okay, so last question I have for you is, in your Twitter profile, the last thing you have there is your chess rating. Your chess rating is 1105. So I'm a bit of a chess player myself. I'm wondering how often you play chess, and what is that rating? Is it a certain time control, or what is that?
So I generally am playing anywhere between 20 and 50 games on a given day. Right now I'm playing 40. But I play, games where it's at a very minimum, three days per move. Right. Not meaning that I'm going to take 3 days per move. I generally don't go the day without, like, it's the thing that I do at the end of the day after I've done writing my newsletter, downtime, and, put the kids to bed, and I'm almost about to pass out myself, and I go through all my games, and, just kind of see if I can come out with with a winning strategy. For me, it's a way of keeping my mind sharp, and there's certainly a lot of parallels that we can see in the market. So yeah, I mean, so I'm on chess.com, and username is the same as it is on Twitter. So feel free to send out a friend request, and then we'll play a game.
Awesome.
It's something that it's just a lot of fun. That's all for me.
Yeah, for me too, definitely. And I prefer the daily chess as well, 3 days per move. I have 2 games going on right now, which is a lot less than 40, but yeah, I enjoy it as well. So awesome. Any other final words you have for the people listening in terms of where they can get in touch with you? Of course, we know we have Twitter, we have Quantum Economics. I'll leave your Twitter handle, QE for everyone, which is an awesome handle, and your website and your chess handle. Anything else?
Yeah, that's it. Just come to the website, quantumeconomics.io, subscribe to the newsletter. That's really all I ask.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Maddie. I appreciate your time today and your insight. I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
All right, awesome. Good to talk to you.